異世界
Rebirth of the Malicious Empress of Military Lineage. Chapter 107, Ending the Line of Descendants. 3 days later, the case of Shen Yuan mistakenly murdering Sun Kainan had closed. Sun Yanjing was determined to take revenge for the tragic death of his only child, and made Shen Yuan to be executed at the Wu Gates. There were countless people running around talking about it, as they wanted to take a look of that talented youth who had a huge prospect fall to such an end. Some had sympathy for Shen Yuan, some were scolding Jing Chuchu for being a disastrous beauty, making the entire area lively. Shen Yuan most likely had never thought that there would be such a day like this for him. He was arrogant and was bent on climbing up the social ladder so that everyone would be able to see his achievements, but now was pointed out by those cheap commoners, making his heart extremely uncomfortable. Most of the people threw rotten eggs and vegetables on him, and these dirty things became a foul paste on Shen Yuan's body. One did not have to think further, it was definitely the Sun family's people. Shen Yuan knelt on the execution platform and the executioners stood by him. Usually at this time, if the criminal had family, they would come to send them off and also feed a full meal and drink to them. But not a single one person from the Shen family came, not mentioning Shen Xin, who was like fire and water with the rest of the Shen family. Shen Gui was one who seek advantages and avoid harm. Ren Wanyun had gone crazy, and even if old Shen Furen's legs were good, one fear that she would not be willing to come. The odd thing was that the usually warm and righteous third household was not seen today. Most likely they had made the decision between warm and righteous or offending the Sun family. In the eyes of others, they sighed at the Shen family actions. Winter was smiling gently. Shen Yuan raised his head as sunlight sprinkled over the Ding capital. It was obviously just after the New Year's Eve, and the golden sunlight was as dazzling as during the summer. When noon arrived, the executioners sprayed a mouthful of wine onto the blade and raised the large blade before cutting off the head. The blade fell. Cries of alarm burst out from the crowd, and the females quickly covered their eyes in fear. That bloody head rolled down the stage and onto the crowd, and the stench of blood dissipated after a short while. On the floor, Shen Yuan's eyes were wide open as if he was somewhat puzzled, as though he could say anything in the next moment even if the head was separated from the body. Some people saw this and quietly turned away, concealing themselves in the crowd. At this moment in the Shen residence, it was in a blanket of dead silence. The matter was not something that did not happen if one did not mention it. Shen Yuan's death was still a blow for the Shen family's vigor. Speaking of which, there were not many heirs in the Shen residence, and moreover this was a person who could be able to lift up the Shen residence to the heavens, but was now dead under the large blade of the executioner. At least the people of the Shen residence were sad. Xin Wan sat in the room as a servant jogged in and said, "The punishment has been handled out and the execution grounds people has sent second young master back." At the end, the Sun family agreed to return Shen Yuan's corpse back to the Shen family, and this was already the biggest concession. Even though one did not fight with Sun Yanjing directly, and the handling of Shen Yuan's matter was carried out along with Sun Tianzhen's wishes, everyone knew that the Shen and Sun families' feud had started, and in the future how big this feud would become. After returning, there is no need to stop the coffin and quickly bury it within these few days. Xin Wan sighed as his thoughts got heavy. Master is still worried about this matter? Chen Rikyu walked over and gently said, "We were helpless in Shen Yuan's matter. After all, the Sun family are not ordinary people. I just felt that." Xin Wan shook his head. "Everything is somewhat incorrect. Do you realize it?" Xin Wan said, "Why is the Shen family is so unlucky lately to encounter misfortune in such quick succession? Could it be that there are some unclean things?" Chen Rikyu's heart got anxious. Xin Wan paused. "What nonsense?" Chen Rikyu quickly said, "I am speaking nonsense. Master must not be surprised." Her heart was somewhat vexed. Xin Wan hated these kind of strange superstitious things the most, and she only inadvertently said it and feared that Xin Wan would be unhappy. She went along with Xin Wan's previous words. "Speaking of which, all these events happened on second older brother's family. First it was King then now it's Yuan boy." Chen Rikayu's heart was more disturbed as she spoke. Even though she previously felt somewhat jealous of Ren Wanyan, but after she went crazy, there was no one else in the residence that stood in the same line as her. Lu Zuyan, Xin Xin and Shen Wan did not crawl out from the same mother's womb, so how could it be sincere? It is exactly as such. Xin Wan said, "Do not know who second older brother has made enemies with." Now seeing it all together, it seemed that this is a plan that was long conspired. It is inevitable for second older brother to offend some people in the court. Chen Rikayu said, "But why does it all happen to be this year that these actions took place?" It seems that all these started after fifth girl woke up from her fall in the water. Afterwards the incidents came one after another. Are you saying that it was done by Little Five? Xin Wan found it funny. If Little Five have that kind of ability, then the world will be in a mess. He comfortingly patted Chen Rikayu's hands. "I know these days are hard for you, so do not think too much as how would Little Five, a young female, be able to have such abilities. It is more likely when one say it is eldest brother and eldest Sao that taught her, but both of them would definitely not use such a blunt knife to grind. Their methods had all the while been clean." Xin Wan said, "I will pay attention to the matter. Do not think about it and pay more attention to Yuer's marriage." One sees that she has reached the age where one can talk about marriage. Once Shen Yu's marriage was mentioned, Chen Rikayu pressed down the suspicions about Shen Miao. Xin Wan was more concerned about heirs than Shen Gui, and for so many years he had not despised Shen Yu for being a daughter and really treated her lovingly. Chen Rikayu said, "I will listen to master." In the western courtyard, clothes were draped over Shen Miao while Jings was styling her hair as she said. Second young master's casket was carried back and one heard that it would soon be buried and a funeral would not be set up. Other than the eldest household of the Shen family, the rest were people who loved to do things to look good. Just like old Shen Furen's birthday's celebration that was done grandly and known to the general public. So it was indeed very cold for them to manage the funeral of Shen Yuan, the second household's son. That slipshod. There were some reasons for covering up the scandal, but most importantly, there were not many people that dared to offend Sun Yanjing for Shen Gui, and if one were to really set a funeral up, not be much people would be coming to send their condolences, but it would provoke others to poke fun instead. Second master has not been in the residence these few days. Gu Yu also said, even upon his return, he would be resting in Wan Yi Niang's courtyard. It is already at such a time, and whatever it is, he was his own flesh and blood. How could one be that ruthless? Shin Miao smiled. He is busy during the daytime to win over those estranged officials, and as for during the night, if one do not rest at Wan Yi Niang's, could one be sleeping on the same bed with second Shen? One initially wanted to take the opportunity to denounce Shen Gui for being ruthless, but Shen Miao unexpectedly used the word sleeping on the same bed openly. Gu Yu was somewhat embarrassed and she did not know why was Shen Miao that gutsy now. There were not any improprieties in her actions or etiquettes, but in matters of relationships between male and female, how could she not be embarrassed? Even if it was fake, she should still act it out, else in the future when one meet males, they would only be surprised by Shen Miao's valiant attitude, and no one would dare to approach her. Shen Miao did not pay attention to Gu Yu's expression and thus did not know that Gu Yu had so many thoughts in her heart. She only said, "What is the status of the inquiry on the Sun family side?" The Sun family hid too tightly that the servants also knew very little. Jings quickly said, "One only know that a young lady did not live well. Heard that the first day. She could not continue speaking. What happened on the first day?" Shen Miao turned her head and looked at Jings. Jings responded vaguely, "Heard that on the first day, a young lady and the horse in the stable were fed with aphrodisiac medication, to let them." At that time Master's son still let all the servants gather at the stables to watch it. Gu Yu almost choked on her own saliva. Human and horse? Jings's face turned red in a moment. Gu Yu still spoke, "Those Sun family's people are all perverse. To mix human and horse, how painful would Jing Chu Chu be? Not only the physical pain, one's utterly unbearable scene would be seen by others. making one felt that dead was better than living. Seeing that Gu Yu still endlessly questioned, Jings was somewhat annoyed. She initially thought of not speaking of such filthy things in front of Shen Miao, in case it dirtied Shen Miao's ears, but when she turned her head over, she saw Shen Miao's calm face. Let alone being shy, there was no shock expression at all, and she even said some jaw-dropping words. Sun Darren is too kind. In fact, one can use a bull. Young lady. Jings's mouth dropped. Shen Miao looked at her. There is nothing to fuss about. In the inner palace, this trick was used to dispose of disobedient females, but she did not use it. Shen Miao was used to directly order forced suicide, as she was not willing to have complications. But one had seen Mai Furan punishing a palace maid, who was a partner of an eunuch, by letting others feed an aphrodisiac medication to a bull and threw that palace maid into the pen to torture her to death. Therefore Sun Yanjing's methods were not surprising, but she did not know that her actions were truly shocking to the eyes of Jings and Gu Yu. After a long while Jings then managed to find her voice. Where does young lady want to go now? Go to Kaiyan Yuan. What is young lady going there for? Gu Yu wondered. Second master is currently not in, so is young lady going to look for Wan Yinayang? Shen Miao shook her head. I am looking for second Shen. Second Furan has gone crazy. Gu Yu reminded. That might not necessarily be. Currently in Kaiyan Yuan, it was as if heavens and earth were flipped. In fact, it was just only in a few months that the entire Shen residence, or to be accurate, the second household of the Shen family, which resided on Kaiyan Yuan, be the one who went through the earth-shattering changes. The previously proud and successful second Furan had become mad. The magnanimous and bright eldest young lady committed suicide in prison, and was a slut who had an illicit relationship with others. Even the outstanding and proud second young master became a low-rank convict in front of the entire city, and died under the big sword of the executioner. Life was like a play, and Kaiyan Yuan's play was a bit too tragic. The only consolation was that second Furan, Ren Wanyun, still had a second son, Shen Yuanbo, but he was raised by old Shen Furan's side. If Ren Wanyun had not gone crazy, by the virtue of Shen Yuanbo, she could still temporarily sit in the main household position. But it was only temporarily. Who knew? If Shen Gui would take in concubines in the future. After all, Shen Gui was lustful, thus it was not impossible for him to have other sons. As compared to Ren Wanyun's unlucky fortune, Wan Yinayang, who had been deserted for many years, seemed to have ushered to spring. After lowering herself and being small for so many years, that even the daughter she gave birth was not seen in the day, she did not think that she would receive help from heavens. Even though Shen Gui viewed relationships thinly, he treated females well. Wan Yinayang only had to firmly grasp Shen Gui's heart to regain favor, and with that, Shen Dongling's position would only rise up. Dongling, in a few days one will let master arrange a courtyard for you. Wan Yinayang was doing needlework as she smiled at Shen Dongling. Most probably because Shen Yuan was already dead, Shen Yuanbo was still young, and Ren Wanyun could no longer threaten her. Wan Yinayang's brows were filled with joy, and there were traces of happiness in her voice. Arrange what courtyard? Shen Dongling, who was reading behind the screen, looked up. You have been squeezing with me in one courtyard, and other young ladies at your age would already have their own separate courtyard, so you should also move out. This place is after all too crowded. They are the daughters and I am a Su daughter. Shen Dongling calmly said. Hearing that, Wan Yinayang's heart ached. Shen Dongling's birth was a fact she could not change, and it was the thing that she was always troubled about. She herself believed that Shen Dongling was not inferior to Shen King, Shen Yu and Shen Miao, but in the past 10 years she could only let Shen Dongling live under the radar. Now that the hardship was over, how could one still watch Shen Dongling continue to be so cautious? Wan Yinayang said, the previous eldest young lady's courtyard is currently vacant, and you need not have to sleep in her room and instead another. The direction eldest young lady's courtyard is facing is good, and the landscape is beautiful. It would be a waste to remain empty. Now that master is treating us well, one felt that this request will be consented. Yinayang, no need. Shen Dongling rejected her recommendation. It is not a good time to stick out at this moment. One have already endured for over 10 years, thus there is no need to be in a hurry. Even though father treat us well now, Yi Niang should know what kind of character he is. When the situation has stabilized, then this can be discussed again. When Yi Niang wanted to persuade again when she suddenly saw her personal maid, Lu Hua, running in and speaking hurriedly. Yi Niang, fifth young lady has come to our courtyard. Fifth young lady? When Yi Niang suddenly stood up, why did she look for me? Shen Dongling also looked towards Lu Hua. Lu Hua shook her head and said, she is not here for Yi Niang. This servant saw her heading to the room that Second Furen is resting in. Fifth young lady is looking for Second Furen. When Yi Niang's voice suddenly became high-pitched, why do fifth young lady look for Second Furen? Second Furen has gone crazy. This servant initially wanted to eavesdrop, but the few maids that fifth young lady brought, guarded so tightly, the others were all located far away from the room and were unable to see or listen to anything. Lu Hua asked, Yi Niang, what can be done now? Yi Niang paced around the room anxiously and mumbled to herself, what is going on? That fifth young lady visit to Second Furen. But Second Furen and fifth young lady had so much discord previously, so how could fifth young lady be that kind? She looked at Shen Dongling. Dongling, what do you say? Shen Dongling's eyes hung down as she pondered for a while before speaking. Since it cannot be eavesdrop, then do not attempt to inquire and stay within one's bound. Fifth young lady is not a simple person, and since it is done, the preparations would be through. No matter what kind of methods we use, one think that nothing would be inquired. Can this be left like this? When Yi Niang was somewhat unresigned. What if she and Second Furen conspire together? Second Furen and fifth younger sister are not people who forget gratitude and animosity with a smile. Shen Dongling said lightly, moreover we have never opposed fifth younger sister before, so no matter who fifth younger sister want to scheme against, it would not land on our heads. She looked towards Swan Yi Niang, we will just wait for a good show. Outside, Kai Yun Yuan, Gu Yu, Beilu and Shuang Zhong were keeping guard a few steps outside the room, while Jings followed Shen Miao inside. The other maids in the courtyard were doing their own tasks obediently. Ren Wan Yun had gone crazy, so naturally the servants did not need to fawn and please her. People all stepped on those who were low and flattered those higher up. Moreover, Ren Wan Yun was very harsh to her subordinates previously. Thus they were more willing to please the gentle and virtuous Wan Yi Niang. Therefore these maids did not even stop Shen Miao, who had the support of the first household, when she walked over. But not everyone was like this. Ren Wan Yun also had her own confidants after so many years, and those were her personal maids, Xiang Lan and Kaiju. At the moment in the room, Xiang Lan and Kaiju were glaring at Shen Miao like tigers, facing both of their vicious gaze. Shen Miao was not affected by it. Since these two people refused to go out, there was no harm for them to listen. On the bed, the woman was wrapped in a quilt and sitting at a corner. Her eyes were lax, her hair seemed to have been combed properly before she made a mess out of it, and there were traces of saliva on her clothes. Her lips were slightly trembling as she did not look towards anyone but towards the heavens, and no one knew what she was talking about. Fifth young lady, as you can see, our Furen's health has not recovered yet, so your disturbance would only worsen Furen's condition. Xiang Lan said, I am here today to tell Second Shen one thing. Shen Miao gently smiled. One think that Second Shen already know about it. Even though one is sick, but one would still be sensitive to news. Second older brother was beheaded this afternoon and his body is lying in a casket, which would soon be buried. Fifth young lady, Furen is already sick. She cannot listen to these words. Kaiju shouted loudly. Even though Xiang Lan's and Kaiju's expressions were very severe, they did not have the courage to lay a hand on Shen Miao and force her out. Now they knew that Shen Miao was not an easy person to deal with, and since a huge part of how the second household ended up was due to Shen Miao secretly pushing the waves and adding to the billows, Shen Miao could be almost regarded as the enemy of the second household. But now not only Shen Miao had deep intentions, there was still Shen Xin and wife supporting her at the back. With that kind of person targeting the second household, there was no one that dared to fight against her. Shen Miao ignored the two maids and looked at Ren Wanyan as she smiled gently. One think that second Shen also know that when second older brother was beheaded, there was no one from the residence that went to visit second Shu, third Shen and old Furen, not any one of them. She looked at Ren Wanyan. I think that if second Shen was not sick, one would have definitely sent second older brother on his last journey. Now on the way to the underworld, second older brother is alone. How pitiful. Fifth young lady. Xiang Lan could not help but shout again. What are you afraid of? Shen Miao's lips hooked up. Second Shen is now sick and cannot understand my words. Are you afraid that I will provoke second Shen? Naturally not. Xiang Lan hastily denied. Then you better stay there obediently and shut up. Shen Miao raised her eyebrows, else I have ways to let you be unable to serve your Furen forever. Xiang Lan and Kaiju were secretly shocked as Shen Miao said those words so confidently, that it made them feel a chilling sensation. Before second older brother left, second Shen had fallen ill, so one was unable to see second older brother at all. One think that second older brother must have been very sad in his heart when he came to the end. He was unable to see his parents at all. It is actually quite tragic. Ren Wanyan still focused on the ceiling with a silly look, but her hands at the side slightly bent imperceptibly. A few days back Wan Yi Niang still came over and looked for me. Shen Miao smiled. One think that she is anxious to build a good relationship with me, and hope that in the future I will say a few good words about her in front of old Furen. One think that the possibility of second Shu elevating her status to a common wife is high. When the words landed, Xiang Lan's and Kaiju's faces paled. Everyone knew that currently Wan Yi Niang of the second household was favored again. Previously Ren Wanyan had forced Madame Wan to a difficult life, and now that Madame Wan had gained power and may even be raised as a common wife, could all this be revenge? Now that the relationship with Shen Gui soured and that old Shen Furen did not even care about, how miserable would Ren Wanyan's future be? I am naturally not willing. Shen Miao turned her head to the side and thought, second Shen is the main branch of the residence, so naturally I will stand by second Shen's side. But it seems that Wan Yi Niang is not resigned to it. Moreover, seventh younger brother is still being raised by old Furen's side. But when seventh younger brother grows up a bit more and Wan Yi Niang has been raised up to a common wife, since you are still sick, would not seventh younger brother be raised by Wan Yi Niang? Can it be that Wan Yi Niang was trying to build a good relationship with me because of this intention? If you dare to devise a plan on my seventh son, I will make sure you feel that death is better than living. At the corner, Ren Wanyan roared out. One did not know for what reason her voice was extremely rough and difficult to hear. And that pair of eyes that had been starting at the heavens since one entered the room, had landed squarely on Shen Miao at an unknown time. They revealed a ferociousness as if it was a wolf. How could one devise a plan on seventh younger brother? Shen Miao gently smiled. If second Shen do not believe, I can swear that if one devise a plan on seventh son, then I will be struck by lightning and die horribly. As her voice landed, the eyes of the few people in the room were somewhat surprised. Jings, who had been quiet, became somewhat anxious. How could Shen Miao swear with such heavy consequences? They had all the while valued the importance of oaths, and Shen Miao said it so calmly that she did not have any opportunity to obstruct. Ren Wanyan did not relax her vigilance on Shen Miao as she sneered. It cannot be that you did everything possible to come here, provoke me with those words, and to see if I had gone crazy just to make that kind of vicious oath. She said, Shen Miao, I cannot win against you. It is I who had underestimated you. If everything can be repeated, I will definitely harm you before you have grown to such an age, and would definitely not be soft-handed. Second Shen really know how to joke. Shen Miao said, since when have you been soft-handed on me? You have already forced me to such a situation. King Er's and Yuaner's incidents are not unrelated to you. If it is not because of seventh son, I would definitely perish with you," Ren Wanyun said with gritted teeth. "I know that second Shen would not bear to burn both the jade and a common stone, destroy indiscriminately, because of seventh younger brother, so one knew that second Shen will not be sick for long." "What exactly you want to do?" Ren Wanyun stared sharply at her. "What other means and methods do you want to use?" Shen Miao smiled amiably. "Second Shen need not speak so unreasonably. In fact, I am here to give you a way out." "A way out?" Ren Wanyun said tragically. "What kind of way out do I have at such a point? Can it be that second Shen think that the current situation is the worst?" Shen Miao was surprised. Second Shen has been intelligent all the while, so how could one be this muddled? "What do you want to say?" Ren Wanyun's face had gotten heavy. "Simple." Shen Miao smiled. Now that Wan Yinayang has coaxed second Shu till he is shouting for joy, did second Shen ever thought before that if Wan Yinayang were to bear a son for second Shu, what will become of seventh younger brother? Ren Wanyun's body stiffened. Second Shen is well aware whether second Shu value Wan Yinayang or second Shen. Thus one would also know if second Shu will value the son born by Wan Yinayang or seventh younger brother. If there was a day where Wan Yinayang is elevated to the status of a common wife, then there will be 2D sons in the second household. But these 2D sons are not brothers of the same mother. Why do not you guess? Shen Miao suppressed her voice. If they would fight with one another, as Ren Wanyun listened, fear and trepidation set in. That one will have Wan Yinayang protecting and seventh younger brother have second Shen protecting. But second Shen, at that time would you be able to call the shots in the second household like previously? Every word from Shen Miao pierced into her heart, and Ren Wanyun could not help but retort. That slut was unable to give birth to a son before and will not be able to give birth to one in the future. Second Shen is indeed smart. Shen Miao sighed. But this is what I want to say. Could it be that second Shen thought that in the future rather than Wan Yinayang, second Shu would not have other women? She discussed about the elders' relationships so broad-leveled and calm that it stunned everyone. Ren Wanyu was surprised by Shen Miao's words. Correct, she knew better than anyone about Shen Gui's conduct. How would Shen Gui only have one woman? When she was the matriarch of the family, Shen Gui still brought in concubines back to the residence, and if she had not fed those vixens medication to end offspring, one fear that the second household would be overcrowded. You see, one can defend one moment but cannot prevent for a lifetime. After guarding against Wan Yinayang, there will still be more Yinayangs. There are unlimited number of women in this world that can give birth, and there are numerous women who want to enter the second household. Unless second Shen could still control the inner courtyard like previously, and give the medication to end offspring for all of second Shu's women. But do now second Shen have that ability? Moreover, those years ago, Wan Yinayang still managed to give birth to third older sister. In the future, will there be another Wan Yinayang? A slightly frenetic look appeared on Ren Wanyun's face as each words from Shen Miao stabbed into her soft ribs. What she could rely on was that she gave birth to sons, and if this point disappeared, what the future would be like. Second Shen, do you want to see that the family that you struggled to manage in the residence's money all land not on your sons but in other woman's son? Second older brother was outstanding, and everything of the second household should have belonged to him or to seventh younger brother, but now others went to the next level. Are you willing to sew wedding clothes for others? Ren Wanyun stared at Shen Miao. What are you trying to say? I will give you a way out. Shen Miao smiled gently before taking out a packet from her sleeves and placed it in Ren Wanyun's hands. Medication to end offspring, for men's use, she said softly.